Hello and welcome. In this short presentation we will be looking at the history and contribution of the transistor in computing and how it will continue to aid computers and other devices. We'll also be looking at how the transistor was developed and distributed worldwide to aid many devices that we use today and will continue to use in the future. What is a transistor? A transistor is a device that controls the movement of electrons and electricity. When working with electricity, transistors can both switch or act as an amplifier to electric signals, allowing the user to control the current. A transistor has at least 3 terminals which act as a connection point for an external device. One of the terminals is being used by a current, the other terminals change their current. The earliest transistors were developed at Bell Labs and were made from the element germanium. The scientists and development team in charge chose germanium as it was a good conductor, but by performing a process called doping, the germanium was turned into a semiconductor. We can look at computers as a system of small components. The 4 inventions that made the biggest impact on modern day technology and computing came in 4 stages. The first generation of computers ran on vacuum tubes. The second generation of computers were then upgraded to transistors, while the third generation ran on built-in circuits and the fourth generation on microprocessors. The vacuum tube was invented in 1907, and with this radio and telephone were able to be received at long distance. However, it was quite fragile and took a lot of power to run. With a new power source needed, work began to be done to find an alternative source of power. Between November to December of 1947, John Barden and Walter Brattain at Bell Labs began to experiment with germanium, and the result was a source of power was created greater than that of the vacuum tube. Now that there was an alternative power supply, solid-state physicist William Shockley backed the project, and over the following months worked hard to help expand the knowledge and understanding of semiconductors. The word transistor was first used by John Pierce to describe the term transresistance. Once transistor radios and transistor hearing aids became possible, many engineers and scientists began to realize that transistors would now be possible to place in computers and replace the outdated old technology of vacuum tubes which lay inside. One of the first pre-transistor computers was the Electronical Numerical Integrated Computer, called ENIAC for short, but this design was not practical as it needed more than 17,000 tubes to run and weighed more than 30 tons. In 1954, Texas Instruments created the first silicon transistor. Silicon transistors worked perfectly with computers. Silicon transistors helped computers calculate to huge numbers in a short amount of time and led to the development of Silicon Valley. Texas Instruments devised a way to mass produce these silicon transistors for computers and radios, and in the process supply the transistors at an affordable rate and showcase their superiority over vacuum tubes and other power supplies. Soon after, other companies began to produce the silicon transistor and kick-started the modern technology boom. As you can see here, there are many advantages and disadvantages to transistors. Thank you for watching this presentation.